Hello everyone, my name is Candice Lane and today I'm going to be presenting on social media's impact on mental health. And then I will be comparing how this topic is presented in popular press articles versus psychological research. Sorry, one second. Introduction. I chose this topic because social media is widely used in today's world, specifically in young adults, including myself. I've noticed that there are a lot of mixed opinions about whether it helps or harms mental health. Um, Due to this, I wanted to better understand what research actually says about this topic. The purpose of this project was to analyze research findings and compare them to how the media presents on them. And then one main idea I found throughout this research was that social media's impact on mental health is really individualized, and it really just matters how much you're using it, what you're using it for, and that can affect people in different ways. When looking at, the text coverage of this topic, when we look at social media and mental health, you can connect it to several different topics throughout our textbook, which is Psychology, A Concise Introduction by Griggs and Jackson, 2020. As an example, in the neuroscience section, it does refer to how the brain's reward system works. When we get likes or notifications on social media, it releases dopamine, which means it makes us feel good and encourages us to keep using it. We can also connect this topic to learning. In the textbook, Griggs and Jackson, 2020, the textbook, it discusses where behaviors are repeated and when they are rewarded. On social media, positive feedback, such as likes and comments, reinforces certain behaviors and can turn them into habits. In addition, social psychology helps us explain how people can compare themselves to others online. In the text, it explains that social comparison can impact your self-esteem, and on social media, this can sometimes lead to feelings of anxiety or depression. Lastly, in the abnormal psychology section, the textbook discusses mental health disorders such as anxiety or depression. Excessive use of social media can be linked to these issues, specifically when it leads to loneliness or negative self-image. Sorry, I can't get that to go forward. Okay. So the first article. In the first article I reviewed, it is titled New Large Study Finds Little Evidence That Social Media and Gaming Cause Poor Mental Health in Teens. This is by Chang and Humphrey, published in 2023. This article examined whether social media and gaming cause a poor mental health in teens. The researchers used a relatively long study tracking screen time and mental health over a period of time. The findings overall showed very little evidence of direct causation, with only small and inconsistent effects. The conclusion of this was that other factors such as stress, family, and socioeconomic statuses were more impactful, and that social media is not the main cause of mental health issues. And again, that was Cheng and Humphrey, published in 2023. Okay, my second article. My second article is The Hidden Role of Vulnerable Dark Personality Traits in Digital Addiction by Petrova, and this was published in 2023. This article explored whether personality traits influence social media addiction. This study used surveys and personality assessments to measure digital addiction behaviors. Overall, the findings showed that individuals with more vulnerable personality traits were way more likely to develop social media addiction and use it for validation or coping. The conclusion of this article was that the effects of social media vary by that specific individual and their personality traits, which play a very big role in determining that. And again, this was Petrova, published in 2023. My third article. This article is titled, A Digital Dilemma. Study shows how social media, internet addiction, and phubbing shape the mental health, by Lubag, which was published in 2024. This article examines how social media use and internet addiction affect mental health. The researchers used surveys to measure the individual's social media use and track internet addiction and other behaviors such as phubbing. The findings overall showed that the higher the internet addiction was linked to a worse mental health, and phubbing was connected to relationship dissatisfaction. Overall, the conclusion of this article was that digital behaviors can negatively impact mental health, specifically when they interfere with real life relationships. And again, this was by Lubag 2024. Published in 2024. Okay, the limitations of popular press articles. There are several limitations I found when learning about the research through popular press articles. One thing I noticed in these specific articles I used was that the headlines can oversimplify the research. When looking at the article, new large study finds little evidence that social media and gaming cause a poor mental health in teens by Cheng and Humphrey. The title makes it seem very clear, but the actual study showed small and inconsistent effects, which is it's kind of more complex. Another thing I noticed is that the articles often lack detailed methodology. In Petrova's article, the hidden role of vulnerable dark personality traits in digital addiction, it did mention surveys and personality traits, but it didn't go into too much detail about how those traits were actually measured, which makes it, I guess, a little harder to really truly understand and evaluate the overall study. And lastly, I found that correlation can be confused with causation. In Lubag's article, A Digital Dilemma, study shows that social media, internet addiction, and phubbing shape mental health. Overall, the findings showed a connection between social media use and poor mental health, but it did not prove that social media directly caused any of those problems. These examples show why it is very important to look deeper into the popular press articles. What I learned throughout this study. Through this project, I learned that social media's impact on mental health is not as simple of a topic as I originally thought. For example, looking at Chang and Humphrey's study, it showed that social media is not the main cause of mental health issues, which kind of challenged what I expected for the outcome of this project. At the same time, though, Lubag's study showed that certain behaviors, such as internet addiction and phubbing, are linked to worse mental health. And then I also learned from Petrova's article that personality plays a huge role in how social media affects the individual, meaning that it just affects everyone differently. I would still like to know more about the long-term effects of social media and how us as a whole, as a population of the whole, can use it in a healthier way. And yeah, reflection on future consumption. So overall, this project will definitely change how I view psychological research in the future. After reading these articles, specifically the one by Chang and Humphrey, I did realize that the headlines can make results seem more certain than they actually are. Because of this, I will be a bit more skeptical of strong claims and look more closely at the actual findings. Um, I also learned from comparing all three articles that results can widely vary depending on the study and the participants. So I will definitely make sure to look at multiple sources before forming a conclusion. Overall, this project helped me think really critically about how research is presented in the media. Here's my resources. Thank you.